Hey everyone. Hey Michael.
Hey, hey.
Ah, it's still January. We're still going through it. Anyway, I am excited to have another episode of Python Bytes today, and we've got some fun stuff in line for everybody. So let's jump in. Hello and welcome to Python Bytes, where we deliver Python news and headlines directly to your earbuds. This is episode 465, recorded January 12th, 2026, and I'm Brian Ocken.
And I am Michael Kennedy.
And this episode is sponsored by us and you. So thanks to everybody that does support us through Patreon supporters and also through grabbing the PyTest course or the Lean TDD book or so many of the massively cool courses at Talk Python Training, and also Michael's fun book on deployment and stuff like that. So, if you'd like to, we're recording this for the podcast, but also broadcasting it live. If you'd like to join the live, you can join us at YouTube, but you can just go to pythonbytes.fm/live, and there's a link on how to get that and what the timing is and all that. Also, you don't need to take notes. You can just sign up for our newsletters. So go to pythonbytes.fm, grab the newsletter, and we don't do very many spammy things. We just let you know what we talked about, and with all the links and a little bit of extra information. Yeah, and we love growing that list. It grows by a little bit every week, and it's so fun to see. So, and with that, Michael, what do you got for us first?
Let's talk about Port Killer. Port Killer. So Port Killer is that interesting Mac app. And if you're not a Mac, I apologize. Oh, no, it's a Windows as well. It's a Windows as well. So if you're on Mac or Windows, which is a good chunk of us, here is a cool application. So let me just lay out the problem for you, Brian. Either you've got 20 terminal tabs open, or in one of your 4 IDE windows, you've got your API running, or you've got your web app running or something like that. And you go try to run it again, not knowing that fact. And it says, sorry, that port is already in use. You're like, oh man, where is it now? And that's on you to know where you ran it. There's a button to say run in your IDE versus running in the terminal. And so maybe you just press the button, you forgot, oh yeah, that thing was like one of the running things. But since 2025, there's another reason this is a pain, is some of these agentic AI things, they're like, oh, let me start the server for you so I can test it. And it'll like temporarily fire up the web server and make a request and like lose track of it and not kill it. And it's not in your terminal. It's not in your IDE. It's just there somewhere in the background, hidden. You can't get to it to shut it down. You go to Task Manager Activity Monitor, and you say Python is like 4 things. You're like, well, 3 of those are supposed to be running. Which one do I kill, So it's just a real hassle. And so this port killer solves that problem, not just for Python, but for applications in general, right? So it's a powerful cross-platform port management tool for developers. It monitors ports, manages Kubernetes port forwarding, and even does integrated Cloudflare tunnels. So it's really, really slick, actually. So what you do is it's got a little notification section, menu bar thing that drops down, and you can have multiple Cloudflare tunnels, which we've talked about ngrok, and I've talked about rat hole, like Cloudflare tunnels are a thing like that. Like put this on the internet so other people can get to it. So maybe I can help debug or show off something, right? Like if you're trying to debug a webhook, the only way to do that is online, right? Because some other server is trying to get to your dev machine. So these tunnels are super helpful. We talked about that. So that will actually manage these things. Like, for example, you can go to, say, your Flask app. And I'm pretty sure you can, I don't see in the UI exactly that, but I think you can go to it and say, oh, expose this Flask application as a Cloudflare tunnel. Boom. It's off to the races. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also shows you all the local ports that are open. and you can go kill them. So what you can do is you can actually go to either search for a process or a port. You're like, it says that port, 5,000 or 8,000. Let's go with 8,000. It's a little safer. 8,000 is taken. You can't run your app. Why? Just go in there and type 8,000, find the thing, and press kill because you're like, stupid Claude code left that thing running and I can't find it to kill it. So I'll do it here. You know what I mean? Or you
Yeah.
can just see what ports are open, what's running, all sorts of stuff. And I think it's super neat. You install it on Mac OS via Homebrew, or you can just download a DMG. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I got to say about it. But it is nice.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like m- this is obviously, I'm not even sure why I'm commenting on this. But I at most have like one or two ports open when I'm working on a web app because I'm not heavy duty web developer, but yeah, it looks
Yeah.
neat.
Well, the thing is, you might not have very many, but you can only have one app on that one.
Oh
And
yeah.
if it gets lost, especially if the little AI thing goes off and does something and then leaves it just dangling, you're like, oh man,
Yeah, you got a
what is
rogue
this?
agent you got to hunt down.
Yeah, exactly. So it's even if you're just doing one, it's like it's still valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Neat. Well, what am I talking about?
A fine
I,
question.
I'm going to talk about making things faster and profiling. So, Henry Schreiner sent this to us, and he's a fan of friend of the show, and we're fans of Henry Schreiner's work. So he's a core developer. Um, the article is how we made Python's packaging library 3 times faster, and this is cool because packaging is one of the heaviest hit packages on PyPI. Even though a lot of people might not pip install it themselves, it's used by a lot of other stuff. Um, and I let's see. I often am doing it when I'll reach for packaging if I'm trying to compare versions. To like at runtime, I'll say like, um, you know, if I'm testing with something at 315 versus a different one or something like that, I'll often use packaging for grabbing versions. Anyway, there's a bunch of fun stuff in the packaging package. But so how did they make it 3 times faster? The article talks about like graphing and plotting and how he's figuring this out for a while. And I'm going to scroll past all of that and talk about the actual updates. And I love one of the things I love about this is sometimes, I mean, we often hear about don't premature optimization is bad, but there are times where you see stuff that's taking a while and you're like, I really wish this was faster. And so there is a time for optimization. And often it goes along something like this. It's you put some profiling together, you try to measure the different parts of it, and then measure it and try to reproduce those, make sure they're consistent times so that they're not random. But then you just do like 10% at a time. So this is an interesting one of like 10% speed up of just stripping zeros out of stuff. They had a they had a, 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 a reversed list iter drop while a way to reverse it to strip the zeros, and they just made it a little different and more actually more readable and less elegant, but it's nice. Instead of one line, there's 5 lines of code with a for loop, but it sped up the whole thing by 10%, and that's awesome. And then okay, so that's a little thing, 10% speed up, and then a faster regex, 10 to 17% faster on 311 and above only. And that's another thing is sometimes newer versions of Python have more tools at your disposal. So you might have to have two implementations, but why not make it faster for the newest? So that's pretty cool. Um, removing I don't even actually get this. Removing single dispatch. Oh yeah, removing single dispatch 7% faster. Um, remove duplicate version creation 37% faster. Awesome. Removing name tuples 20% faster. Just all these different little tiny speed ups, and they're like 10 to 20%. And in the end, it's a lot faster. So really like the write ups on people just taking a little bit befores and afters. And that doesn't mean to say if you've got something that looks like the before code that you should speed it up. You should measure and make sure that it's readable. I mean, I think the first goal is readability. Next, measure to see if it's too slow or something.
Yeah.
So
Write it in the form of readable, understandable, and then figure out how to make it fast
yeah,
if needed.
yeah, but there are tools available if you are ready to try to make things faster. So
Indeed. All right.
all right,
I have I don't know how to phrase this. I think it's not good. Let's call this a not good story, but it's quite the story. So this is AI's impact on dev companies, open source. We start with a quote from Simon Willison's sort of link blog, which itself is a quote. Okay, so Adam Watham is the CEO of Tailwind Labs, which is the maker of Tailwind CSS. And the story about what's happening right now with Tailwind CSS is bonkers. Like, you would have never predicted it. But once you hear the story, you're like, ah, yes, okay. So from Adam, he actually did this 30-minute morning walk where he like sort of walks and talks, and it's kind of like a journal, but public or something like that, I guess. And he says, we had 6 months left. It says, I just laid off some of the most talented people I've ever worked with, and it blinking sucks. The direct written version is, this all actually came from this thing called llms.txt, which actually is pretty interesting. Like robots.txt, but for LLMs. I'm thinking about putting this on Python Bytes and stuff to like help LLMs be more efficient working with what we produce. So if somebody wants to ask a question like, hey, what did Python Bytes say about this? Like, what did Michael and Brian cover here, and what was their advice? Right? If we put that as a, hey, LLM, you could technically scan the entire system and try to understand that, or you could use our search for these keywords, and then here's how you access the transcript, and then parse just, I mean, you could give like a little advice. So someone had proposed as a PR to put that onto Tailwind and said, could you please put that onto the Tailwind documentation so that we'll be more efficient talking to Tailwind or asking questions of Tailwind from our AI agents? And people lost it. People lost it. It wasn't good. And Adam said something to the effect of, like, this actually is a pretty decent request, but the reality is that 75% of the people in our engineering team lost their jobs yesterday because the brutal impact of AI. And if I add this feature, it's going to make it worse. All right, so here's the insane aspect.
Huh. Yeah.
If you look at if you look at downloads, on NPM, I guess that's traffic of a form. If you look at the downloads of Tailwind, they're up 6 times year over year.
Wow.
6 times more usage. Don't you think that would make the product more viable? No. Because if you go to the Tailwind's documentation, it's all free, Tailwind's open source, but there's a thing that says Get Tailwind Plus. You see that in the docs. However, even though there's a 6x increase in usage, there's a 40% drop in traffic to the documentation, and revenue is down 5 times, or down 80%.
Yeah.
Why? Because instead of going to the docs to get help, you just say, hey, AI, install Tailwind and do this. Or you don't even say that. You say, make it pretty, and like Tailwind is the default styling mode of AI. That's pretty sad, huh?
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't. Yeah, it sucks. I don't know what the solution is.
I don't either. Avoiding llms.txt is probably not the answer, but it's also not a solution for sure. I mean, it might need a different business model. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've both seen this as well. Like the I was faced with higher server costs on my blog, and then I put in, we talked about this earlier. I put in monitoring to see who it was, and it was mostly robots. And then I cut robots out, and we got zero traffic. So I'm like, not
But
zero,
that's not
but
the answer either, though, is it?
it's
Like,
not.
it's like saying I do not want to appear in Google because I hate the traffic. I mean, I know it's
Well,
not
that's
exactly the
that's
same,
the
so don't
thing
email
with
it.
But with Google, they said if you don't let our robots in to scrape your site for our LLMs, then we're not going to scrape your site for search traffic either. I think.
Sure,
Well, I think that's the thing, and that's lame. I
that's
think
very
that you
lame.
should be able to say no. I don't want somebody to scrape at my site for AI, but please do keep looking at it for search.
Can we just
But
just take a moment and just say that there are really good alternatives to Google, like Start Page,
yeah,
like Kaggy,
yeah,
like
but a lot of them are
others.
all built off of the same data that Google's
I know,
selling.
and Start Page is built off this stuff, so it is in a sense really, really the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I'm not even done with the story, Brian.
Okay,
That's
let's
just
let's
tail
hear
end.
the rest of the drama.
Okay, so that's half the story. There's a really good video by this guy. I just came across Maximilian Schwarzmuller. He does a bunch of great developer videos. He's more of like a
And an awesome name.
I know it is an awesome name. He's more like a JavaScripty guy, but he does a lot of just like thought pieces on programming in general, and he's good. So he did a 11-minute 55-second video on this Tailwind is in deep trouble. Talks about it. Actually, shows a lot of graphs and data and stuff. It's pretty interesting. And then the other is a video from the Primogen, and this is the other side of this is another company in the same theme, and Stack Overflow is cooked. It is insane. Let me see if I can find a spot here. Let me see if I can find a spot here with this graph. So there's an insane graph if you watch that video, but I can just tell you the words. I'll tell it to you in words, Brian. So I don't have my show notes up, so I'm going to have to do this from memory, but I believe in the first month of Stack Overflow's life, there was 3,800 questions asked.
Yeah, in 2009. I've got the notes up.
Yeah, okay. Almost nothing. I mean, it's getting going. It's like a forum. Like, no, of course there's going to be almost no questions. It goes up and it stays 200,000 new questions asked per month almost through the pandemic. And it starts going down. And this is not purely from AI. It's going down like pretty precipitously for 2 years before ChatGPT comes out. But when it does in like mid 2022, it drops even harder. So here's an insane stat. In 2016, there were 200,000 new questions asked at Stack Overflow. In 2026, well, technically last month in December 2025, there were 3,740 something questions asked. The same as the first month they opened. 200,000 to 3,000.
It's insane.
That is insane. So, I mean, actually, I think the primary guide's got to prepare your goodbyes is pretty much it. Now, it does seem to still be going strong, like selling this data, this pure data in a sense, to AI companies. But for how long is that going to last? That's like we don't have any cows left and we can't get milk, but we got a lot of cheese that's really good in the freezer. So we could sell that for a while until it's gone.
Right.
Like, until you're like,
Without new questions, there's not new information there. So, and who's answering? Even if there are new questions, who's answering them?
Yeah, I bet you half of those 3,000 or 4,000 are like AI generated.
Yeah.
I honestly, I can't believe this. I knew that they were going down, but 200,000 to a couple thousand is an insane level.
Yeah, and and they were actually one of the better ones as far as ads and sponsors and stuff. It doesn't. I mean, Stack Overflow, we make fun of it. It's and stuff, but it's a part of software, and it wasn't really that spammy. It just was. It didn't have a bunch of pop-ups and stuff. So I actually kind of liked Stack Overflow. So
I know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly how to feel, but it even went so far as we had the Stack Overflow keyboard that only had 3 keys.
yeah.
Right? It had instead of the controller command, it had the Stack Overflow logo and then a C and a V. It's a beautiful joke. Just that's how important that used to be.
Yeah, you
And
take an
it's
error message and just throw it into Google search and you get a Stack Overflow question answering it. That's how you figure stuff out. So
exactly. There was a period where we read books, and then we copied and pasted from Stack Overflow, and now I guess we copy them and we just take it from AI. But this, I think this is noteworthy in a big way in the developer world, right? This is big.
yeah, and I mean I know that the people behind Stack Overflow, there's a lot of money there, and I think that the top of the chain they're probably fine, but the but everybody that got laid off, that's lame. And then but Tailwind has always been a lightweight business model, even though they were doing some amazing things, and like you said, it's being used by almost everyone. Um, so
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah. Kiva out in the audience points out like it's insane how symmetric this graph is. I agree. It is insane. It's like almost a perfect trapezoid. Not quite, but almost.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pulling up stuff from the comment. Henry points out that he's just a PyPA member and builds many, many Python things, but not quite a core developer. Just to
Okay.
keep the record a little bit.
Okay. Well, Henry Schreiner is a core asset in my learning journey. I guess I'll put
Indeed.
it that way.
All right, over to you.
Okay. Let's. I wanted to talk about Henry Schreiner's art. No, similar. So we talked about Henry Schreiner's article on Python packaging and making it faster. And it reminded me of something that I wanted to talk about for a while and I just forgot about. So thanks, Henry, for the reminder. And it was because I was, and it's around profiling. So I was looking through, not the packaging library. I was looking through Fast API once, looking at their. I kind of do this. I kind of troll sometimes. I go through GitHub workflows of different packages to see what sort of tricks they're using in their workflows. And I
It's
remember
like the view
seeing,
source of the modern
yeah,
day.
of workflows. And it's one of the wonderful things about open source packages is you can do this. So Fast API plus the folks at Fast API are really great about trying to stay cutting edge and helping other people. So looking through here, I saw CodSpeed benchmarks, and I'm like, what is this? So that's my topic right now is the CodSpeed tool, and it's probably maybe it's CodeSpeed, but it's spelled COD, so I'm going to pronounce it CodSpeed.
It could be measured in like how fast does a cod swim in the ocean, and this is like a
Is it
metric. I
a
don't know.
is it a laden cod or a
Heavily laden cod. Bite your
okay?
kneecaps off. Get back here.
So one of the I'll talk about the actual tool, but as we're looking through Fast API, there's also in the merge requests for new features, there's a performance report that is linked, and you can go and take a look at it. If you can click on that, you go and see, like, you can go and poke around at that particular merge request. I'm looking at the overview because Fast API on codspeed.io has this a graph of basically making is not very noisy of like the different times they've measured things and how the performance metrics have gone up and down, and it's really kind of cool. So I was like, can I use this? Yes. So I'm going to try this out. I haven't tried it yet, but at codspeed.io, and there's a nice rabbit logo. It's just nice. Anyway, it's integrates into dev and CI workflows to measure performance, detect regressions, and if it was just a paid tool, I wouldn't probably be covering it. But it's one of those awesome tools that's actually not that expensive per month if you're actually paying for it for your project, for a commercial product. But It's free for open source projects. So I love those sorts of things. They're given back to the community for with free tools. It's great. So what what I wanted to talk about is if we go to back to the homepage, it's pretty cool. One of the things it talks about is catching performance and not noisy metrics. So I'm not sure how they're doing this, but they're saying that the traditional metrics kind of jump around a lot, but that CodSpeed has got a small variance.
It's possible that they run this on dedicated hardware, so you're
Yeah,
not subjected to other things on the VPC.
other noise.
Yeah.
So they're doing flame graphs to pinpoint problems and speed ups and slowdowns. But one of the things I was really impressed with is right there on the front page, they tell you that you can design performance tests, integrate with your CI workflow, and get reports. And there's like a Python button you can click on, and it's like, oh, you just do a PyTest. You just mark whatever test with PyTest mark benchmark, and those are the ones that are used in your benchmarks. It's easy. You're already using them for testing your code, so you can just grab some of your high level tests that test the whole system, and try to hit. Grab a handful of them that hit most of your system. Might be good. Heck, you can throw them on all of them. Maybe, I don't know. And then what do you do in CI? So, once you to try to integrate it in CI, there's tabs for GitLab and GitHub, but they already for GitHub Actions. They have their own action that you can use, and you just say use that, and then run your whatever your code is. So I went back to Fast API's workflow to see what that was, and their metrics when they're running is they're just running PyTest. It looks like they give it a CodSpeed flag. I don't know what that does, but maybe it does some CodSpeed stuff. So just fun. I thought it'd be good to give a shout out to these folks, and I'll try it out on one of my projects and maybe report back how it's going. But you can look directly at how Fast API is using it. It's pretty cool. So
yeah, two quick real time follow ups. I'm going to be interviewing Sebastian Ramirez and his team about Fast API Cloud tomorrow on Talk Python.
nice.
So and maybe if I can keep it in my mind, I'll ask them about this as well. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But if people want to watch that live, that's tomorrow morning. And then Henry points out that Astral uses CodSpeed, and that was mentioned when people were asking about proper benchmarking for packaging.
That might have been where I saw it. So all right. Well, those are our topics. Do you have any extras for us?
Well, let's see what I have. I indeed do have some extras. So remember how I talked about DevOps, Python supply chain security made easy, and Python supply chain security made easy and all that? And I gave some examples using pip audit, how to set it up, cached build time checks so that your Docker images won't build if there's a CVE detected.
Oh yeah.
Well, boy, oh boy. Are there more CVEs in the PyPI space than I realized? Because just middle of last week, I couldn't ship Python Bytes because it said there's a vulnerability in here. We're not going to let it out. So here's the cool thing. It absolutely caught it. It wouldn't let me release a new one. But it is a hassle. And I've also run into a little bit of a bigger hassle, not a bigger, a unforeseen hassle. I said, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to delay updating to the new thing by 1 week to make sure that that stuff gets fixed. Well, turns out when they find a problem, they fix it and they release it that day. But if I apply that technique, it doesn't get rolled into my stuff for a week. So got to be a little bit careful to just sort of pen some stuff for a little bit or not. Just don't update the dependencies until you get them. Or if it's not, whatever you're going to do about it, right? But yeah, it works because I couldn't release the website till I manually put different versions in to make it skip those issues. That's good. It's a good thing. All right, on to the next one. You probably have heard, Brian, that you should, anytime you're doing security, you need to have a decent password. You know this as a user, but if you build anything that has user auth, Well, you want to have some level of complexity. I feel like there's so many web builders out there that just suck so bad. You're like, how do they let you behind a keyboard? For example, one of my banks, this is a international bank, limits my password length, not minimum, maximum to like 12 characters.
That's insane.
That is just the stupidest. I'm like, are you putting that straight in the database? Because if you're putting that, like, if that's because that's a database constraint, you better not be putting my password straight in the database. You know what I mean? Really bad. But at
Well,
the extreme end,
does the length like affect what the hash length looks
no,
like?
the hash is the same length for one character and a million characters. That's why I'm sus of it. You know. But there are actually some nuanced aspects. So if you're using MD5 to hash your passwords, no, don't do it. Please don't do it. But there's some really nice things you can do. Like you can use more modern ones. And especially something that you can do that's really powerful is to use what are called memory hard problems. So cracking passwords is an embarrassingly parallel problem in that, like, I've got a hash and I'm going to try a bunch of different stuff against it. And if I got a GPU, maybe I run like 4,000 variations in parallel. And if any of those match, then we call it good, you know, and use all the cores. That's because GPUs scale compute super well. But you know what they don't scale well? Memory. And so one of the new-ish algorithms is called Argon 2. It's really highly recommended because it is not subject to this brute force attack. Because instead of using a lot of compute, it uses a lot of memory. So you can't parallelize that as easy, right? You're like, well, each hash takes, I don't know, 15 megs to do an attempt. So, you know, how many of those can you parallelize before you run out of memory, sort of thing, right? Well, it turns out that this has become a point of a problem. So hackers have started using, as a distributed denial of service type of thing, very long passwords. So like 1 megabytes worth of text of password, because the Argon 2 and the memory hard ones, the bigger the password is, the bigger the text is, the more memory they use. So if you just jam like an insane amount of text, all of a sudden it becomes not just memory hard for hackers, but even for your server. It's like, okay, this is off the charts, right? So I just want to put this out there on people's radar. Like Brutus out there says, my bank also restricts password length. Boo banks, they suck. But maybe they shouldn't allow 1 million characters, like limit it to 100 or 50. Something way bigger than you're going to do, but like not unbounded, right? Don't just say less than. It's a super easy check, but this is definitely something to keep your radar on.
Character restrictions are terrible also. The ones that say like you can't use some special characters. Like, why would you not be able to use special characters? Because
Exactly. I honestly think like a good chunk of this, and maybe this is the bank thing as well, is like it's a tech support thing. Somebody who is like 78, doesn't really know what they're doing, can't type in their password. They're like, I called tech support and they're going to help me type it in or something. I don't even know, but I feel like it's, you know, restrict the characters used so they're more legible. I don't know, but why would you allow an L and a 1? I don't know. It's all messed up. Or an O and a 0. Like, can't use zeros. You only can use O's, or vice versa.
Well, the ones that like require you to use a number also, it just seems weird. It's like these particular like 10 characters are special, and we need one of those 10 to be in of all the possible characters, these 10.
That's a really good point. Makes me so frustrated. I have one password generate these like ones that are easier to type if you got to type them on your phone or something, but they're like 30 characters. And capital words, lowercase words, dashes, and it says you don't have a number or a special character. I'm like, do you really think it's going to make a difference if there's an exclamation mark on this 30 character random? Like, no. Anyway, I am here with you. All right. Last extra. I sold my computer and bought a new one at this place called Swappa. So I kind of want to talk about Swappa really quick because I just think this is a good alternative to buying computers from Apple directly. It's kind of like eBay, but specifically for computers. So you don't buy it from the company. They facilitate you buying it from another person, which I think is kind of interesting.
Okay.
So I had this Mac Mini super minimum version that I had bought with some trade-ins that effectively I paid like $360. I sold it for 600 on here, and then turned around and bought a maxed out Mac Mini Pro version, which has got like 14 cores and lots more memory, like a lot of upgrades for like $1,700 instead of 3,000. And you apply the 600, and it gets like, hey, that's almost nothing in price. So someone was saying like, oh, hey, I don't have an Apple Silicon thing, and I need to do builds for it, and what a hassle that is. So like even the most brand new Mac Minis are for sale for like $400-500. But if you look and you I just need an Apple Silicon thing, you could go to the 2020 ones, and it's like $280 for a new, not new, but mint-ish computer, right? Like a decent M1 if you need to grab. Anyway, I thought I'd just throw that out there because I had a nice experience both buying and selling my computers there. And now I got like a really maxed out one, which I use to make my unit tests go twice as fast.
Nice.
That was fun.
Yeah. Nice segue there.
Over to you.
So, as an extra, I've got actually. So you all know I've been working on a new book. So Lean TDD, and I'm kind of excited about this update because I was working on just the next chapter, and then it was getting big, and I was writing a lot, so I decided to break it up. So I split the book into 3 parts. There's Foundations, that's talking about Lean and TDD. And I think I want to expand the TD. I've got some questions on test-driven development from people that were new to it. I just sort of assumed everybody knew about TDD, but so I'll probably expand that later. But I've got Foundations, and then what I released today, this morning, was, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 new chapters on part 2, which is Lean TDD practices. And so instead of dumping this all in one big chapter, I split it all up. And some of these are, to be fair, in PDF form, some of these are a couple pages, so they'll be like 3 or 4 pages in your EPUB. But they're, I don't want to keep, it's a lean book as well. So I think that the total right now, I'm up to like 70 pages. After this, I do want to try to wrap this up by the end of this month still. So I got a couple weeks left. I've got the last part is considerations. I want to cover the role of test engineers if you have them on your team, and also talk about test coverage and monitoring. So it's only a few topics I got left, and that'll wrap up the first draft. So excited about. I've been really excited about the flow and getting this in here. It is funny though. Things that you think you just know in your head, when you try to write it down in a sequential form, it's like, wait, how should I phrase this? I thought I could just talk about this easy, but trying to get it out of your head is, sometimes tricky. So that's my thing. Also appreciate. So I had set up GitHub repo that doesn't have the book, but it has just a place for stuff. It's Lean TDD book under Aachen for feedback, and not very many people were using it. But just recently, I want to shout out to Timothy Malahi. He gave me a bunch of stuff, like look through a bunch of typos. I really appreciate that, and then some other ideas about maybe expanding on some sections. So I like the feedback.
Awesome. Congrats on the progress too.
Thanks. Yeah, that's my extra. How about something funny?
Yeah, let's do something funny over here. So this one is about how amazing agentic coding is. Even if you don't even know anything about programming, you don't know anything about the web, Brian, you can do it. Here's a quote. I believe this is on Reddit. Claude Code is blanking insane. I know literally nothing all caps about coding, zero all caps. And I built a fully functioning web app in minutes. Check it out at localhost colon 3000.
Yeah.
Nope. Nope. We're not going to be checking it out at 3000 because you know nothing.
That's funny.
I think that captures the end of 2025 vibes. It's just like, it's amazing and terrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when do we get AIs that can deploy for you? Are we there yet?
Far away. I had a Claude Code helping me set up a special WebSocket, HTTP to WebSocket to secure WebSocket conversion on Nginx, and it was like, here, boom, perfect. But you got to know to ask, right? That's the thing.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. But
anyway.
These are weird times. They're very weird times.
There are weird times. But we're still hanging in there. And if you're hanging in there too and hanging in with us, I really appreciate everybody listening to the episode, listening to Python Bytes, and supporting us through all of the different means. Yeah, we're going to do this as long as we can. So thanks, Michael.
Yep. Thank you, Brian. See you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.